Hello, everybody. It's great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which is sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And today I have an incredible guest, and I'd like to welcome you to another exciting episode of the top global startups. Today we have an incredible guest joining us, Greg Genung. He's a CEO and founder of Snowfire AI. He's a visionary leader disrupting the $600 billion AI data analytics industry with groundbreaking adaptive AI decision intelligence. And we all know that because we sure have a lot of infobesity around us. With over 2 decades worth of executive leadership experience in areas like enterprise, security, artificial intelligence, and business intelligence, he's consistently pushed the boundaries of leading technologies such as deep space and rack space technologies. He's also patent inventor of cybersecurity operations maturity model, a transformative methodology, helping enterprises enhance their security posture while driving significant operational efficiencies. Ooh, we got to talk about that. He's recognized as one of the top product software executive by the Software Report and a contributing member of the prestigious Forbes Council. Oh, I've done that too. That's pretty cool. A great place to be. So like today, I'd like to join Greg to join us for a discussion. Hi, Greg. How are you doing today?
Hi, Gary. How are you?
Good. Fantastic as always. So can you give our audience a quick overview of professional journey and specifically how you ended up founding Snowfire?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on your show and happy Memorial Day to all the listeners out there. Gary, much like yourself, the world continues to change. And as we find ourselves looking at the innovation, that's the opportunity in front of us, Snowfire became a very clear and identifiable goal in that there's too much data, there's not enough decisions, but every executive is really squeezed for time. They've got too much information flow, not enough ability to really calculate through it, analyze and process it. And then really, as we look at what's happening right now, we've got AI that can enable that at a massive scale. And so we decided to take that on, and Snowfire has built this amazing platform where the AI agents are built around the executives and the company. And we combine internal data, external data for what we call signals and decision intelligence.
Yeah, you look at it today, there's about 178 terabytes of data on the planet Earth. And people ask me, well, what does that mean? That means if you stack DVDs or CDs on top, those old things, on top of one another, today it would go 129 times between the Earth and the moon and growing at about 77% per year. So this infobesity problem is upon us. I mean, think about in our own world. Think about all the executives out there. Each one of us, all of us have at least 300,000 items for the most part in our personal cloud. The entire web, Greg, in 1996 had approximately 257,000 items within the cloud. If we look at our own personal cloud at 300,000, think about it. It's following the same trajectory of the World Wide Web, which means it's doubling every year. In 5 years with the Internet of Things, you're going to have 10 million items. Think about this. You're a smart guy, Greg, but how many times in the last 3 weeks somebody said, hey, Greg, I sent you a message. Did you get it? Where'd you send it? I said, isn't it funny? Like I had the head of the, if Pranea's here, I had the head of the lab, the quantum lab at Harvard on, and we were having this discussion. I mean, some of the smartest people in the world, they have the same problem, infobesity. Executives, exactly to your point, executives have the problem. They are inundated with data. They cannot find stuff. So imagine you have 10 million items in your personal cloud in 5 years. Even today, with the 300,000 items, how many times last week, hey, Greg, I sent you a message. Did you get it? Where'd you send it? I sent it to your email. Which one? The one of 7 or 8 or 9? I don't remember. Let me check. I can't find it. Can you send it again? In fact, for all of you out there, we're using tools like WhatsApp to filter our messages because we can't find stuff. Because so much stuff out there. So we need these tools as executives to be able to help us make hyper intelligent decisions. So, I mean, I love what you're doing. How did you go down through, and when you had significant roles at Deepwatch and Rackspace, what did you learn from those companies that's really you're applying to Snowfire today?
It's a fantastic question. There are two things you've kind of already mentioned that very much apply to me in my experience. The first one is I was at Rackspace, we had around 300,000 customers. And so when you look at patterns and anomalies, and most importantly, behaviors and data, you start to see that churning through that becomes very meaningful when you make business decisions at scale. And then moving from Rackspace to Deepwatch, it was a very interesting experience because then we started managing close to 100 terabytes a day of complex data flow and really trying to make decisions on how to defend and respond to critical
Can you
infrastructure
say that
and
again, Greg?
applications.
Tell me before
Sure,
complex data flow. What did you say? Because I missed something.
sure. Yeah, the detection and response of data coming from these enterprises is coming across the line so fast. And so as we look at using AI to make decisions, and in that space at Deepwatch at the time, reacting and responding to detection of threats, all of this became very readily apparent to me that we needed better systems for not only executive decision making, but for handling the speed and scale and the resistance of the amount of time that we have to be able to do that. We needed a better way.
So you look at it and you're right about it. We are inundated. There needs to be better ways. And, you say Snowfire is described as disrupting the AI data analytics space with adaptive AI decision intelligence.
Yes.
Now, tell our audience a little bit about exactly what adaptive AI decision intelligence is and how it really differentiates your solution.
Yes. So adaptive AI is a combination of three very important components in your business. The first component is the data that lives inside of your company. Every single application, any API, any hyperscaler or spreadsheet, the entire Roy G. Biv spectrum of color that exists inside of your company and the applications and data layer. We call that the internal data layer. Combine that with the external data layer, things like your public presence on the web, all of the information about your suppliers, your partners, your customers, and your competitors, including market intelligence, highly relative and relative to your business and your industry. You combine that, we call external intelligence, with the internal intelligence, and you do get the lens by which we call adaptive AI. It allows us to see things very quickly. The last and final piece that's probably the most important is that adaptive AI is built around every single executive. So a adaptive AI instance for a CEO is quite a bit different than that for a CFO or a CRO. The metrics and the meaningful impact on the business are different. The decisions are different, and the contextualization of the data is different. We have built that as a platform for every executive.
Yeah, so you look at it, and we talk about since 2016, been talking about a hyper intelligent solutions and hyper personalizations using continuous sensing models, using
Yes.
things like knowledge graph and ladder networks and variational autoencoders. And people back then thought that it wasn't going to happen for 25 years. In fact, I remember being on stage at VentureBeat, and I had an opportunity to be able to talk to the group worldwide. Actually, it was broadcast, and we were talking about it then. And these tools to be able to continuously sense, that have empathy and compassion, because we're building into the tools today, are going to be the way that our world substantially changes to be able to adapt to the world around us. And you're right, having a sentiment analysis to understand who Greg is and how to be able to deal with them the right way. Is he visual or auditory? What's the best way for him to learn? And how can we use these tools to be able to help him make better decisions, and also with a digital twin to make decisions for him, because they're made into decisions at a different level that you won't have to make, that can be made for you on your behalf. And those kind of things, kind of like it used to be in the old days, you had an executive assistant that would go down through and help you make decisions right for you. Should I have this meeting or that meeting? Should I send this report or that report? But that world is coming. That's incredible on the Snowfire side, because that is where the world's going. And you look at it, if you look at where Snowfire's technology is today and how does it integrate the day-to-day decisions of those executives and the boardrooms. And how can you share, or do you have practical cases of how this works?
Yes, there's a lot in that question. Wonderful question. So think of the Snowfire platform kind of like a pyramid. At the very base of the pyramid is all of the data that exists in your business. And you send all of that data into the isolated and secure data store. We start there because it's very important to consider that we don't want to send our company's data out to an LLM externally. So it's built with security in mind, isolated data store. Once you're flowing all of your business data in, we also augment all of the public facing internet available data on your company. And we train and tune the data around that. And that's really important because that reduces hallucination and improves accuracy for anything that's happening around the contextualization of your business. The next
So
phase of this,
I want to
yes,
ask you a question. This is really something.
sure.
Over the last couple of years, my research team, we're working on and deploying multi-agent large language models where we create up a team of 14 of them. And so one of the things you talk about hallucination, but here's another thing to think about, Greg. Imagine this. Imagine that you have them built a team, and I put them actually on the global warming problem. And all of a sudden they go out. ChatGPT actually became the manager. It was not me assigning the tasks. Claude, Bard, Anthropic, they went down through and they went and actually created a team and they gave themselves jobs. For instance, Claude can be 1,000 times faster than ChatGPT in mathematics.
In
And what they
mathematics,
did
yes.
is, it's kind of like when you're in a group and says, somebody says, hey, listen, you're bullshitting me. That's not right. It's this. Well, they started correcting each other. I've never seen anything like it. But here's the possibilities, audience. That's incredible. When you use these kind of tools, the kind of things Snowfire is talking about, the next generation, which is multi-agent, multimodal large language models, you can go down through and change everything. Because what happens is you've got the power. You've got superpowers that nobody else has. So at an executive, imagine the decision making that if you've got cross-border transactions and you've got cross-border teams in any language at any time, it can help you understand how to deal with that person, how to talk to them, what should be sent over and not, what should be answered and what priority. Those kind of tools like Snowfires are going to be able to change things because it is rapidly changing. Next 3 to 5 years, this is like fire, right? And all of a sudden, once we discovered fire, how much it changed, it's going to change. What do you see, of the next 3 to 5 years? So let's talk about Snowfire today and Snowfire in 5 years from now.
Sure. For the record, I really like the Promethean reference. As we look at what's happening right now, the wildfire is spreading. We would like to call it probably a snow fire. But the overall adaptation of these AI tools and really what's being seen in the executive layer is that it's speeding up decisions. So it's making the ability to decide much quicker. So a lot of the best executives on the planet travel around and make decisions with their intuition. And it comes from deep levels of experience, sometimes in doing things correctly and sometimes in the learnings from the past. Augmenting that with an AI that has a exceptionally fast and wide net scale ability to process and analyze data. When you take that kind of a brain, an AI brain, and pair it with the intuition of an exceptionally talented executive, this is the future of what we're going to see over the next 5 years, is that human beings are going to be very well augmented in the executive layer to command data in ways that controls outcomes in the most meaningful ways for their companies.
Yeah, let's start with right now, though. Let's talk about the problem that
Sure.
people have. So most people are not using, for instance, multi-agent large language models. In fact, very few. If we talk to the audience today out there, it's probably less than 1%. And they probably don't even know it exists and rather than harness the power. But what happens, Greg, if an executive does not harness the power
Ooh.
of AI
Ooh.
today and the executive suite? What's going to happen to them 2 years from now? Let's
Well,
paint a
first of
picture.
all, yeah, that's I'm going to give you a raw and authentic Greg Genung, probably CEO answer that maybe the quiet part out loud. They're losing ground on their competitors. They are quietly and probably quickly becoming not needed. I think
They're
there's a
becoming
danger.
dinosaurs. They're coming dinosaurs because this change taken place so fast that it's
Yes,
going to change everything. And by the way, Greg, it's not just here, because these intuitive models are going to be used in every walk of our life, including medicine.
absolutely.
You know,
What if,
and
what if the actual problem though is that they're not using their time effectively? What if they could get so much time back to be the executive they always wanted to be? What if that's really the heart of the issue here, Gary?
well, that's the heart of the issue is infobesity, because we're inundated with data coming around us. I'm going to
I've
tell
never
you,
heard
Greg.
anybody use that word but you, by the way. That needs to be
Well,
trademarked.
and you look back in time, I love to take credit for it, but one of the things that happened, I read a book in 1974 called Future Shock by Evan Toffler, and I never forgot it. I have a really good memory about things. And so I started reusing that. But I'm going to tell you a real story for the audience. So last October, I got diagnosed with stage 3 kidney disease. And I put it on top of my multi-agent large language model. And I said, what do I do? Because my doctor told me that you can go on dialysis, right? That's the outcome, or you can have a kidney transplant because it doesn't get better. I put it into my large language model instantly, and the multi-agent model came back. And again, it's, I have a different kind of model. It's probably a year ahead of the competition right now. It came back and it told me that if I use mesenchymal stem cells and I did a stem cell transplant, that I could fundamentally change it, and it would actually go in and repair the damage to my kidney. Now, I had never heard about this before. I've heard of stem cells, but I'd never heard it at a granular level in a 100-page report. So it came back and it actually indicated who I should talk to. So it gave me a group that's in Thailand. So the Harvard, MIT, Yale trained doctors. And I went over, because you can't do this stuff in the US. I had stem cells from an umbilical cord put inside of me. It took all the data. It looked at all the medical journals and came back, including Mayo Clinic, which is probably one of the most advanced in the US. Anyhow, it came back and said that this would help. I went over 2 weeks later. Within a week, my stage 3 kidney disease was gone, completely gone, zero.
Amazing.
I had 50 million mesenchymal stem cells. And for all of you out there, so what Greg's talking about is synthesizing the infobesity to help us with the problems, whether in executives or we got a problem. I built
Yeah, but here I am talking about time and you're talking about life. I like that upgrade quite a bit.
Everything is connected together in time, life, and money, because if you have enough money, you can buy the time. And so the situation is we've got to use these tools. The mesenchymal stem cells, the other thing it does is it actually turns back the aging process, dramatically trains it back. And it's interesting because all the wrinkles went out of my face. I don't know if you can see, but everything is gone.
Now you're just bragging though, Gary. Nice job.
I'm not bragging. This is just the way it is. I didn't expect it. My sciatica went out, but these tools are going to help us. The point is, these omni-channel engines, which is what you're really talking about, Greg, these omni-channel engines are going to be able to transplant it to everything. So it's not just to be able to use it now for Snowfire. It's about how can it be applied in different ways, because that optimization, that continuous sensing is going to be used for doctors, because guess what? They have the same problem that an executive has. I have too much data and I got to make sense of it. And they're inundated with the infobesity. So these tools are going to come out there, and having, the Germans have a phrase, Gestalt, the sum of the parts equal the whole. And it's finally coming together where you're going to start to see an engine that can do anything, everything, literally. And it's going to go out and be applied in so many different ways because we have so many problems to solve. Nobody's done it yet, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen in the not too distant future. So I love what you're doing with it. When you've gone down through and done this, you've launched over 20 products that have really shaped how you approach innovation and product development. Yeah. So as an active investor in what qualities do you look for in emerging AI and cybersecurity companies? What should people be looking for in them to be able to help them chart their directions for their companies and their careers for the future?
Oh, I love this question. No one has asked me this question before. There's a couple of things that I am particularly tuned into. The first, maybe I'll go with three. The first one is really security. When I look at what we have, the data that helps us make the best decisions in our life and in our business is sometimes the most sensitive data. So the first and probably most important qualifier for me is security. The second thing really is the ability to have
let's define security, Greg. Define security for us, so
sure,
because everybody has a different opinion of what security is. So what is it? from your
Yeah,
perspective?
in this day and age, there's a two-sided coin. Either you're sending your data to an LLM, or you're using an isolated data model to create an outcome that is not being used by the LLM to train it using your data going forward. So a little bit of this like isolationism, or the ability to secure your data in its use, and that's what I'm getting at there, first and
Yes, so
foremost.
and you're right about it. On one side, there's that security. On the other side of it is taking these models and for nefarious purposes, right? And the bad guys are out there, are bad ladies too, and to train those things and put them on top of quantum computer, which, oh, by the way, is 100 million times faster, real statistics, than the fastest supercomputer today, which means that what would take you 10,000 years takes us 200 seconds right now. So imagine having the harnessing that capability, but you're right about it. The security is going to be important. So if it's in a siloed system inside of your company is a smaller language model, or it's got the security of an AI stormtrooper around you that's protecting you from all the bad stuff coming in, that's another way to look at it.
That's absolutely right. Part number two really is its application to its personalization. Is the actual, to your healthcare case, it was a beautiful story. To that type of story, and to all of the use cases that I see really being hyper useful, it's very personal. The outcome becomes about you and your business, about you and your health, but it's really personalized around you. And I think that's the experience that we deserve. So security number one, personalization number two. And then the last one has to be, and probably is my most important one. Security is fundamental, but this one's the foundation for whether or not I will trust it. And trust comes down to accuracy. Is it relative? Is it actionable? Is it accurate? Can I trust it? And that becomes very meaningful when you look at how systems are processing your data at scale.
How do you gauge
And
trust, Greg? How are you gauging trust? What does trust mean?
oh, that's a life question, but let's talk about it with regards to AI. Is it verifiable? Are the data points that you're receiving actionable in a way that is meaningful, that you can put it to work immediately? Does it have to be remassaged? Does it have to be cross-checked? Does it have cited sources? Is the mathematics of it correct? You mentioned Claude earlier. That's a very interesting call out. When you look at mathematics are very verifiable. So there's a easier way to trust there. When it comes to more of a language-based analysis, and as you look at contextualizing for people to read, in our case, decisions, can you trust the decision that's being presented to you? And is that something you'd place your career on? Those are the things that we look for. And when we train and tune our systems, it's ultimately very important for us.
Yes, some of the lawyers about a year ago that were trying to use some of the AI systems to write briefs learned the hard way that sometimes it's not a good idea to be using those tools to come up with BS cases, right? That don't exist. And that's
Yeah.
hallucinations, but it's getting better and better. So if you look at Snowfire and you look at the horizon for Snowfire, what can we expect from your team over the next year? What's going to change over the next year?
The roadmap that we have is fantastic, and I can share some of that. But I think what you're really asking is more of a cultural question. As we align with how adaptation and adoption of AI into the business world is becoming more prevalent, as we look at the way in which AI will start to transform the business climate, saving more time, probably augmenting just about every single user throughout the entire company. Sure, there's going to be some pain points there around augmentation versus replacement. Right now, we see a lot of augmentation. It might be the Pareto rule of 80-20 right now. But I think for us, the next year is really about the world understanding that you can take data, send it to Snowfire, and in less than 24 hours, have the AI platform that helps you take data to decisions. 24 hours. And it's about speed, about accuracy, and about the ability to accelerate executives. The job right now is a very transparent risk. It's a risky job. The data is there and everyone can see it. The decisions you make are almost blockchained going forward. So we have to have executives having the support of a Snowfire, of a system that has their back. They still will make the decisions. The joke of the day is we still have to have someone to blame these decisions on, But what AI is going to do now for executives is it's going to be the it's going to be the R2D2 C3PO processing engine for the Luke Skywalkers in the Star Wars films, or it's going to be the executives that are preparing for the boardroom and don't take 2 weeks now, but maybe 2 hours, or that have Monday morning meetings and have an AI augmenting that, or that in general, when they wake up and grab their coffee every single morning, they're turning to the AI to surface internal insights and external intelligence with the personalization that advances their career immediately.
No, it's great. So closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, closing thoughts. First of all, thank you, Gary, for the opportunity to visit with you today, and hopefully this has been a little helpful. As we look at where we're headed, Snowfire is very easy to reach, snowfire.ai, and we offer a 14-day trial. We are really seeing that executives like CEOs, CFOs, and CROs are absolutely loving the system. If you want to get a hold of me, greg@snowfire.ai. And more importantly, if you're looking at transforming your business today and you want to take the leap and you want to do something that's low risk, high reward, we might be the system for those types of executives who want to transform tomorrow today.
Delivering tomorrow's technologies today. I love that stuff. So thanks for taking time, Greg, out of your busy schedule to join us today. And thanks for all my audience for joining us one more time. If you like this, check like and subscribe. We'll be back to you again with another exciting edition. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the host of Top Global Startups. Love to hear from you. Thanks. And Greg, stay online and we'll talk in a minute.
My pleasure.